If your lawnmower's not cutting it like it used to, and by it, I obviously mean the grass, it's probably time to just sharpen the blade. Now, you could just replace the blade, which you may need to, and we'll talk about that in just a few minutes, but most likely you can just sharpen it. Now, lawn experts are gonna hate me for telling you this, but you don't need a bench grinder or any other fancy system to sharpen your lawnmower blade. You can do it with a cheap Walmart angle grinder as long as you're using the right discs on your angle grinder. So today I'm gonna show you exactly how to do it, what discs to use, what to avoid, and we're gonna test it out and see how well it holds up. Honestly, I think it's gonna do just as well as any other system out there, and you can do it super cheap and you can do it safe. Let's show you how. Now first, I need to take the blade off. For that, I'm using this is a 5/8 socket, and I'm just gonna tip the mower up. I don't wanna flip it over on its side or on its, all the way over when it's got oil and gas in it, because they'll have a tendency to drain out. So if I tip it back like this though, it usually works just fine. And then I'm just gonna put a hand on it. This blade's not sharp. We're not gonna get it super sharp. And then I have to hold the blade in place to be able to crank on this. It's not too bad. And take this bolt out with this, I guess it's like a washer, but it's got little nubs on it that hold it in place so that it doesn't spin freely. That way your blade spins with this shaft, which is what we need it to do to work properly. All right, now we've got the blade off. We're gonna leave this right here and we're gonna go over to the table. So here's our setup. It's super simple. First of all, because we're gonna use an angle grinder, I really like to have a brick or a block or something to stabilize against, right? So if I'm sharpening here, it's nice to be able to just hold that firmly against there so that while I'm grinding, it's just not moving around, okay? And I can be pretty close. Actually, the closer I am to where I'm sharpening, the better. So you're gonna see that as I'm sharpening it here in a few minutes, okay? All right, so that's what we have here. First, we have a block. I actually have the two blades. The first blade is a blade that's it's just got normal wear. It's a little bit beat up and it just needs a sharpening, okay? I have a second blade that's a little more beat up. It's a little bit more chewed up. There's some big, almost notches in it. At this point with this blade, it might be time to just go replace it. For about $20 at any of your normal like hardwood or lawn and garden stores, even Walmart, you can buy these blades. They're fairly standard. You just wanna make sure that you get the same length and that it's the same attachment shape. And really the blades, they are fairly universal. Even the attachment types, they're not all the same, but there's some standards and there are some pieces that will kind of adapt. So it's not hard to find replacement blade that will fit your mower. We're gonna go ahead and try sharpening this one too and just kind of see how it turns out. Then we need, obviously, our angle grinder. This is the tool we're gonna use. Now, a lot of your hardcore people are gonna tell you like, don't use an angle grinder because you're gonna end up taking off too much or any number of other reasons. The reality is when you use a bench grinder, you're more likely to end up overheating the metal and end up weakening it. Honestly, I find that as long as you're using the right kind of disc, the angle grinder works just fine. The other thing with a bench grinder is you can have both hands on the blade and have just really good control. But again, as long as I've got a block to put that up against, I'm not gonna have any issue with control. So I'm able to keep a consistent angle and keep it really well controlled without any real trouble. The truth is, a lot of us have an angle grinder. And if you don't have an angle grinder, you can go pick one up. This one's from Walmart. It's the Hyper Tough brand and it works just fine. And you can pick one up really cheap. Most of us though, unless we have another really good reason to have one, don't have a bench grinder and don't really have a lot of use for one, and so keeping one in the garage doesn't make a lot of sense. Now, I talk about using the right disc. With these angle grinders, they're a very versatile tool. That's why it's worth having one. You absolutely would not want to use a cutting wheel. This is really skinny. It's still in the packaging, but see how skinny that is? It's literally made for cutting. Obviously, we're not going to use that. You might think you should use one of these metal grinding wheels. The wheel itself isn't made out of metal, but it's made for grinding metal. We don't want that either. That's gonna take off too much, and most of your bench grinders are probably gonna have one of these on it. Bench grinders can also have sanding discs. This is a flap disc for a sander. You can use that on a bench grinder, but you can also put one right here on your angle grinder. If you use a flap disc, a flapper sanding disc like this, you're not gonna overheat this, you're not gonna take off too much material, and you're gonna get a nice smooth finish on the sharpening on the blade, and it's not gonna overheat it, it's not gonna take off too much material, it's gonna be easy to do. Those are the tools that we need, really. It's just the angle grinder with the flap disc and a block. The other thing that we need is a little bit of personal protective equipment. Now, there's a little caveat here for this channel. I kind of grew up in a let's get the work done kind of environment, and oftentimes forget to use appropriate personal protective equipment until I'm already into a job. My hands get beat up, I get sawdust in my eyes. So if you ever see me not using the correct PPE, the correct personal protective equipment in a video, I'm inviting you right now, call me out in the comments. I do not want to be a bad example, and so I'd rather correct it right there in the comments and try to do better in future videos. So for this, we're gonna wear gloves. Obviously, even just holding this, I could hurt my hand, but also we've got moving parts here. And because we have that movement going on, grinding going on, we're gonna wear glasses. The last thing we want is a piece of metal, shavings in our eyes. It's gonna suck. But that's really it. If we do this, put on some gloves, we're gonna be good to go. So let's go ahead and do it. We now have a much smoother finish. You'll notice I cut a little bit on this side, or I sanded with the grinder. A little bit on this side. I tried to follow the same angle that was already there. And on this side, I'm mostly just knocking off the burrs, right? Like this has got some pretty bad ones. I'm mostly just knocking that down to make it as smooth as possible. Because this side is pretty much flat and this side has the angle. So again, this side had the angle downward and this side is relatively flat. And so that's the way I was grinding it. We'll go ahead and do the other one too and just see how good we can get it. And you may have noticed that on this first blade, I went ahead and sharpened all the way up this curved part. It's really not necessary. It comes that way. If I notice just looking at these blades, there weren't really nicks along that part. That's not what's doing the cutting. The lowest part is where the real cutting is happening. So I did it, it's not gonna hurt anything. When we're grinding these down, first of all, you may have noticed, I had perfectly fine control. I was able to do it just fine without any trouble. I didn't have it flopping all over the place. I was able to take off plenty of material with just the sanding disc, no problem. There's not really a good reason to need a bench grinder unless you already have one. The second thing is, how sharp do we really want these? We're not looking to get these razor sharp. We're trying to get them sharp enough, kind of like butter knife sharp, I think is a good way to put it. The idea is they should, when they're moving really fast, they should cut the grass, they shouldn't tear it. So we don't want it like grabbing and ripping the grass, we do want it cutting it, but it doesn't need to be razor sharp to do that. I've seen in videos where people take it and they can just slash, slash, slash. The sharper you make the blade, the faster it's gonna dull, because that means you have a thinner edge. That thin edge is gonna wear out. I mean, we have stuff in our yards. You're gonna run into little sticks, you're gonna run into roots, you might pick up a few rocks here and there. And if the blade has just less of a fine angle to it, if it's a little bit less sharp, it's gonna last you a lot longer. It's not gonna get nicked up nearly as bad. And we're not taking off nearly as much metal, which is gonna make the blade last longer. The last thing that we wanna do now that we have it good and sharpened is we wanna make sure it's balanced. There's an easy way to do that. Let me show you. You don't need a special tool to do this. This is a nail. You can use anything that's kind of long and skinny like this that you can use to balance this on. The idea is we're gonna set it there, and if it's leaning substantially more one direction or the other, we know that that side's a little heavier. I do want to make sure it's sitting fairly well centered though. See, that's pretty balanced. If it was leaning, wanting to go one direction more than the other, we would know that that side's lighter, or the side that it's going down is heavier, and that's gonna be a problem. We're gonna wanna take a little bit more, just shave a little bit more off the other side to get it more balanced. If it's imbalanced, the blade's gonna have a wobble to it as it goes around, and you're gonna end up with uneven cutting and like kind of a wobble in the running of the mower. And we don't want that. That's just gonna make your mowing not as good. Let's see how this one does. I took more metal off this one. If we're not going crazy on it, chances are it's gonna stay pretty dang balanced. Most of the metal, it's going a little bit that way, could maybe take a tiny bit off the other side, but it's just not enough. Yeah, it's so dang close. I'm happy with that. I'm gonna put that back on the mower and it's gonna be just fine. So just a quick little balancing exercise to make sure it's good. Now it's time to put it back on. When we put it on, We want the sharp part to be lower, so when I put it on the mower, it's gonna have this side up. This one, it's a little more pronounced, right? I've got these like parts that kind of rise up. They go up, not down. If they go down, then that's gonna be doing the cutting. This lowest part is gonna cut weird lines in your yard. We go this way. You can also just pay close attention when you take it off. Also, if I look close here I can see this kind of more oval shape wear pattern right there. That's the side that's on the mower. On the other side, I have this kind of, it's a different shaped washer. And so I can see that this side is the side that had that washer on it. So if you forget, I just can know that this side goes down, this side goes up against the mower. Let's go ahead and reattach it, and we're gonna test this mower, see how well it cuts. Good to go.